Commander Jake Morrison walked through the bright corridors of Kepler Station and felt proud of what humans had built here. The massive research station floated in space around the planet Kepler 442b, like a metal flower made of steel and glass. For 3 years now, humans and their alien friends had worked together on this station to unlock the secrets of the universe. Jake stopped at the main window and looked out at the blue and green planet below. 22 years had passed since humans first met the Zephyrian Alliance. The 3 alien species had welcomed humanity with open arms and shared their knowledge freely. The tall crystal beings called the hegemony taught humans about energy, manipulation. The floating gas creatures known as the drifters showed them how to read stellar winds. The machine-like builders helped construct better ships and stations. Dr. Lisa Hammond walked up beside Jake and smiled. Her lab coat had small burn marks from her experiments, and her brown hair was tied back in a messy bun. She held a data pad that glowed with complex equations and numbers. "The breakthrough is real, Jake," Lisa said with excitement in her voice. "We did it. We actually figured out how to make quantum jumps work properly." Jake turned to face her. Lisa had been working on this project for months alongside the Zephyrian science team. The quantum jump technology could change everything for humanity. Instead of taking months to travel between star systems, ships could make the journey in just hours. "Are you absolutely sure about this?" Jake asked. Lisa nodded and showed him the data pad. "The math checks out perfectly. We can compress space-time in a controlled way and create stable jump corridors." The Zephyrians were amazed when I showed them the calculations. Ambassador Veltar said their own scientists had been trying to solve this problem for centuries. Jake felt a mix of pride and worry. Humanity was still young compared to the alien species. Most human colonies were less than 50 years old, and Earth itself had only reached the stars 2 generations ago. But human scientists had a gift for seeing problems in new ways. "Have you shared all the data with them?" Jake asked. "Of course," Lisa replied. "We promised full cooperation on this project. Veltar and the other alien scientists have copies of everything. They want to celebrate tonight with a formal dinner in the main conference room." Tony Blake, the station's security chief, joined them at the window. He was a big man with scars on his hands from his military service. Tony had fought in the border, wars against space pirates before taking this peaceful assignment. "Something feels wrong about tonight," Tony said quietly. "My security teams have been asking questions. The alien ships around the station have been moving into new positions. They say it's for better protection, but it looks more like a blockade to me." Jake frowned. "Tony, these are our allies. The Zephyrians have been our friends for over 20 years. They helped us build this station." "I know what the books say," Tony replied. "But my gut tells me something different. Have you noticed how they always ask detailed questions about our military capabilities? How they want to know about every human colony and defense system?" Lisa shook her head. "They're just being thorough. Scientific cooperation requires trust and open sharing of information." 6 hours later, Jake sat in the main conference room surrounded by humans and aliens. The Zephyrian delegation looked impressive in their formal attire. Ambassador Veltar's crystal body reflected the light in beautiful patterns. The drifter representative floated in a special containment field that sparkled with tiny stars. The builder delegate's mechanical parts clicked and whirred softly as it moved. The dinner had been pleasant with good food and friendly conversation. Lisa had presented her quantum jump research to applause from everyone present. The aliens seemed genuinely excited about the breakthrough and praised human ingenuity. "We must toast this historic moment," Ambassador Veltar said in its musical voice. The crystal being raised a specially designed cup that could hold liquid. "To the partnership between our species and the bright future we will build together." Everyone raised their glasses. Jake noticed that Tony had barely touched his food and kept glancing toward the exits. The security chief's hand rested near his weapon despite the peaceful setting. Ambassador Veltar's crystal body suddenly changed color from blue to deep red. The other aliens in the room made similar transformations. The drifter's containment field turned black, and the builder's mechanical parts began to glow with a harsh white light. "Actually," Veltar said in a voice that no longer sounded musical, "we have a different toast to make." to the end of human expansion and the completion of our long mission. The lights in the conference room dimmed as armed alien soldiers poured through the doorways. Jake reached for his sidearm but found 3 energy weapons pointed at his chest. Around the room, other humans were being surrounded and captured. "What is this?" Jake demanded. "We're allies." Veltar laughed, and the sound was like breaking glass. "Allies? Humans are so naive. We have been watching you for decades, waiting for you to develop something useful. Your species grows too fast and learns too quickly. The Shadow Concordat has decided that humanity must be stopped before you become a real threat." Lisa stood up, despite the weapons aimed at her. "The Shadow Concordat? I've never heard of them." "Of course not," the Builder delegate said in a mechanical voice. "We made sure you only learned what we wanted you to learn. Every piece of technology we shared with you was carefully chosen. Every star chart we provided led you away from our true territories. Every treaty we signed gave us more access to your colonies and military secrets." Tony slowly moved his hand toward his weapon. "How long have you been planning this?" "Since the day we first made contact with your species," Veltar replied. "Humans think they're special, but you're just another young race that needs to be controlled. We've done this 47 times before. Most species accept their place in the galaxy. The few that resist are simply eliminated." The alien soldiers began restraining the humans with energy bonds. Jake watched helplessly as his crew was captured one by one. Through the conference room windows, he could see alien ships moving closer to the station. "The quantum jump technology was the final piece we needed," Veltar continued. "With your research, we can strike at all human colonies simultaneously. Your people will never see us coming." Explosions suddenly rocked the station. Emergency lights began flashing red as the artificial gravity fluctuated. Tony had managed to activate the station's self-defense systems before being captured. "Run!" Tony shouted to Jake as he broke free from his restraints and tackled the nearest alien soldier. Jake grabbed Lisa's hand and pulled her toward the emergency exit. Behind them, Tony fought desperately against overwhelming odds, buying them precious seconds to escape. Other humans in the room tried to follow, but most were cut down by alien energy weapons. Jake and Lisa reached the shuttle bay as the station shook from more explosions. They could see alien ships firing on Kepler Station's defenses and communication arrays. The betrayal was complete and devastating. 4 other survivors joined them in the shuttle bay. They managed to reach one of the small emergency craft just as alien soldiers burst through the doors. The shuttle's engines roared to life as Jake pushed the controls to maximum power. As they escaped into space, Jake looked back at Kepler Station. The place where humans and aliens had worked together in peace was now burning. Alien ships surrounded the wreckage like hungry predators. In the distance, he could see a massive fleet of unknown vessels emerging from quantum space. The war had begun, and humanity didn't even know it yet. The emergency shuttle shook and rattled as it flew through space at maximum speed. Jake Morrison gripped the pilot controls while sparks flew from damaged systems around him. The small craft had never been designed for long-distance travel, but it was their only hope of reaching safety. Lisa Hammond sat at the science station trying to make sense of their situation. Her hands moved quickly over the controls as she checked star charts and calculated their position. Behind them, 4 other survivors worked to repair the shuttle's failing systems. "How bad is it?" Jake asked without taking his eyes off the navigation. Display Katie Wells, the station's chief engineer, looked up from an open panel where she had been working on the power systems. Her uniform was torn and her face was covered with grease from the repairs. "The quantum drive is completely destroyed. We're running on backup fusion engines that were only meant for short trips. At this speed, we have maybe 3 months of fuel." Steve Cooper, the navigation officer, spread a holographic star map in front of them. The map showed their current location as a small red dot surrounded by vast, empty space. "The nearest human military base is on New Austin. That's 17 star systems away through territory we've never fully mapped." Dr. Ben Parker, a physicist who had been working with Lisa on the quantum research, shook his head sadly. 3 months to cross 17 systems? That's impossible with conventional Engines. The sixth survivor, communications officer Rachel Stone, had been quietly trying to fix their long-range radio. She finally looked up with frustration. The communication array is completely fried. We can't warn anyone about what happened at Kepler Station. Jake felt the weight of responsibility crushing down on him. Somewhere behind them, an alien fleet was preparing to attack every human colony in space. Hundreds of millions of people were going to die, and his small group might be the only ones who could warn them. We have to try, Jake said firmly. Even if it kills us, we have to reach New Austin and spread the warning. For the next several days, they flew through empty space while Katie worked miracles keeping their damaged engines running. The shuttle had been built for comfort, not survival, and their supplies were running dangerously low. They rationed food and water carefully while taking turns sleeping in shifts. Steve discovered the first sign that their situation was even worse than they thought. While checking old navigation records, he found discrepancies in the star charts that the Zephyrians had provided to human explorers over the years. "Look at this," Steve said, pointing to two different maps of the same region. The Zephyrian charts show a clear path through this sector, but our own sensor readings indicate a massive asteroid field. They've been giving us false information for decades. Lisa studied the data with growing horror. If they've been lying about navigation, what else have they been lying about? All of our expansion into this region has been guided by their charts. Ben pulled up records from his personal files. As a physicist, he had access to reports from scientists throughout human space. "I'm finding inconsistencies everywhere. Mining operations that disappeared without a trace, exploration ships that never returned from missions, colonies that went silent and were written off as equipment failures." Rachel connected the pieces together. They weren't equipment failures or accidents. The Zephyrians have been systematically eliminating human outposts for years. They've been herding us away from their real territories while gathering intelligence on our capabilities. Jake felt sick as he realized the scope of the deception. How many people have died because we trusted them? Katie's voice came from inside an access panel where she was working. Thousands, maybe tens of thousands. And if we don't reach New Austin in time, it's going to be millions more. 2 weeks into their journey, they encountered their first evidence of the coming invasion. While passing through an uninhabited system, their sensors detected the remains of a human cargo convoy. The ships had been destroyed recently, and the attack patterns were unlike anything in their databases. "These energy signatures don't match any known human or Zephyrian weapons," Ben said as he analyzed the wreckage. "This is something completely different." Steve piloted them closer to the destroyed ships. Through the main viewer, they could see that the cargo vessels had been systematically taken apart. They weren't just destroyed. Someone was looking for something specific. Lisa examined the sensor readings more carefully. The cargo manifests show these ships were carrying quantum resonance crystals. Those are essential components for faster-than-light communication systems. "They're targeting our ability to coordinate a defense," Jake realized. "Without quantum communications, our colonies can't warn each other or call for help." As they continued their journey, the shuttle's systems continued to deteriorate. Katie had to rebuild the life support system twice using spare parts that weren't designed to work together. The artificial gravity failed completely, forcing them to work in zero-gravity conditions. Rachel managed to pick up fragments of alien transmissions using their short-range sensors. The signals were heavily encrypted, but she could tell they were coming from multiple sources throughout the region. "There are alien ships everywhere. This isn't just a small invasion force, this is a massive military operation." During their 6th week in space, they reached a system that contained an abandoned human mining station. The facility had been listed as a failed operation in the official records, but when they investigated, they found evidence of a recent attack. Katie and Steve explored the station, while the others remained on the shuttle. They found the mining equipment intact and functional, with no signs of the equipment failures that were supposed to have caused the abandonment. In the station's computer core, they discovered security recordings that showed the truth. The recordings showed Zephyrian ships attacking the station 3 years earlier. The miners had tried to send a distress call, but their communications had been jammed. The attack had been swift and methodical, with the aliens taking prisoners rather than simply destroying the facility. "They've been harvesting humans," Katie said with disgust when they returned to the shuttle. "Taking people for interrogation or worse." Steve had found something even more disturbing in the station's files. The aliens left behind monitoring equipment. They've been watching this system, probably waiting to see if any human ships would come to investigate. Ben analyzed the alien technology they had recovered from the mining station. "This is far more advanced than anything the Zephyrians ever shared with us. We've been dealing with their primitive representatives while their real military uses, technology that's centuries ahead of ours." As they entered their final month of travel, the shuttle was barely holding together. Katie had cannibalized every non-essential system to keep the engines running. They were down to emergency rations and recycled water that tasted like metal. Rachel finally managed to pick up human communication signals as they approached the New Austin system. But instead of the normal commercial and military traffic they expected, the signals were filled with distress calls and combat reports. "New Austin is under attack," Rachel said with despair in her voice. "The invasion has already begun." Through the main viewer, they could see flashes of light in the distance where ships were fighting near the planet. The alien fleet had arrived, ahead of schedule, and the human defenders were caught completely off guard. Jake pushed their damaged engines beyond safe limits as they raced toward the battle. Their tiny shuttle would be useless in a fight, but they had to try to reach the surface and deliver their warning. "Even if we die here," Jake said to his exhausted crew, "we have to make sure someone knows the truth about the Zephyrians." Lisa nodded and began preparing a data package containing all their evidence. "The galaxy needs to know that humans don't start wars, but we sure as hell finish them." As they entered the combat zone around New Austin, alien ships turned their weapons toward the small shuttle. Jake began evasive maneuvers while Katie rerouted all remaining power to the shields. Behind them, the stars themselves seemed to remember the betrayal at Kepler Station. And ahead of them, the first battle for humanity's survival was about to begin. The damaged shuttle screamed through the atmosphere of New Austin, while alien fighters pursued them with deadly intent. Jake Morrison fought the controls as their ship spun out of control, its engines finally giving up after months of punishment. Around them, the sky burned with the lights of space battles as human defenders fought desperately against an enemy they had never expected to face. Katie Wells had managed to keep their shields running long enough to survive atmospheric entry, but the crash landing was still brutal. The shuttle hit the ground hard and skidded across a rocky field before coming to rest against a cluster of tall trees. Steam rose from the wreckage as the survivors crawled out through emergency hatches. Lisa Hammond helped Rachel Stone climb out of the shuttle, while Ben Parker gathered their precious data files. Steve Cooper had been knocked unconscious during the crash, but he was breathing and didn't seem seriously injured. "The military base is 15 kilometers that way," Jake said, pointing toward a line of mountains in the distance. "We need to move fast before the aliens send ground troops to find us." They had barely started walking when the sound of human aircraft filled the air above them. 3 military transports flew overhead, heading toward their crash site. Jake activated the shuttle's emergency beacon, hoping the human pilots would recognize them as friendlies. The lead transport landed nearby, and armed soldiers jumped out with weapons ready. Jake raised his hands and stepped forward slowly. "I'm Commander Jake Morrison from Kepler Station. We have critical information about the alien invasion." The soldier in charge was a tough-looking woman with sergeant's stripes on her uniform. Her name tag read, Martinez. She kept her weapon pointed at Jake while her men surrounded the other survivors. "Kepler Station was destroyed 3 months ago," Sergeant Martinez said suspiciously. "Everyone there was killed in an accident." "There was no accident," Lisa said urgently. "The Zephyrians attacked us. They're not our allies. They're working for something called the Shadow Concordat, and they're planning to destroy every human colony." Martinez looked uncertain, but she gestured for her men to lower their weapons. "You'd better come with us. General Kane needs to hear this story." The transport flew them to Fort Independence, the main military base on New Austin. From the air, they could see the evidence of the ongoing battle. Smoke rose from damaged buildings, and anti-aircraft batteries fired continuously at alien ships in orbit. The planet's defensive fleet was clearly outnumbered and fighting for survival. General Patricia Kane was a legend in the human military. She had led the defense of the outer colonies during the border wars and had never lost a battle against space pirates or raiders. Now she faced an enemy unlike anything in human experience. The general listened carefully as Jake and his team explained what had happened at Kepler Station. Her weathered face showed no emotion, but her eyes grew harder with each detail of Zephyrian betrayal. "You're saying that our oldest allies have been planning this invasion for over 20 years, General Kane said when they finished their report. Ben Parker activated a holographic display showing the evidence they had gathered. "The proof is undeniable. They've been sabotaging human expansion, feeding us false information, and gathering intelligence on our military capabilities. The quantum jump technology that Dr. Hammond developed was just the final piece they needed." General Kane studied the data for several minutes before speaking again. "If this is true, then every human world is in immediate danger. The aliens know exactly where our colonies are located and how our defenses are organized." Alarms suddenly began blaring throughout the base as new contacts appeared on the strategic display. Dozens of alien ships were dropping out of quantum space near the planet, and they were transmitting on frequencies that Jake recognized from Kepler Station. "This is Admiral Zektar of the Shadow Concordat," the alien voice echoed through the command center. "The human colony of New Austin will surrender immediately or face complete destruction. You have 1 hour to comply." General Kane's expression turned grim. So much for hoping this was an isolated incident. She turned to her communications officer. "Activate Protocol 7 immediately." Jake had never heard of Protocol 7, but he could see the surprise on the faces of the base personnel. The communications officer hesitated before following the order. "General, are you sure? Protocol 7 hasn't been used since the early expansion years. Most people don't even know it exists." "Do it now," Kane ordered firmly. Lisa watched as technicians began activating systems that had been hidden throughout the base. "What's Protocol 7? General Kane explained while her people worked frantically at their stations. "During the first wave of human expansion, we encountered several hostile alien species that tried to destroy our colonies. The military leadership decided we needed a way to warn all human worlds simultaneously in case of a galaxy-wide threat. Hidden quantum beacons that had been secretly installed on every human world began transmitting a coded message. The beacons had been disguised as routine communication equipment, but they were actually part of a vast emergency network that spanned all of human space. Steve Cooper, who had recovered from his injuries, studied the beacon network with amazement. "This is incredible. You've created a communication system that can't be jammed or intercepted by alien technology. The beacons use quantum entanglement principles that we developed independently," General Kane explained. "The aliens shared a lot of technology with us, but they never learned about this particular innovation." Within hours, the warning message reached every human colony in the galaxy. The reactions varied dramatically depending on the location and leadership of each world. Some colonies immediately began evacuation procedures, while others started preparing their defenses for battle. On the agricultural world of Greenfield, Governor Carol Davis received the warning just as alien ships appeared in orbit around her planet. Instead of surrendering, she activated the planetary militia and began organizing resistance networks among the farming communities. The mining colonies in the asteroid belt responded by converting their industrial equipment into weapons. Heavy mining lasers became anti-ship batteries, and cargo haulers were modified to carry fighters and supplies to threatened worlds. On Earth itself, the human assembly entered emergency session, while Defense Corps Admiral Roy Patterson began mobilizing every available warship. The home fleet had been designed to protect humanity's birth world, but now it would have to defend the entire species. Back on New Austin, Dr. Hammond worked desperately with the base scientists to develop countermeasures against the stolen quantum technology. She had helped create the breakthrough that made the alien invasion possible, and now she was determined to find a way to stop it. "The aliens understand the basic principles," Lisa explained to the research team. but they don't fully comprehend the quantum mechanics involved. There's a fundamental flaw in their approach that we can exploit. Ben Parker assisted with the calculations, while Katie Wells began modifying human ship systems to implement Lisa's countermeasures. If they could protect even a few ships from alien quantum weapons, it might give the human fleet a fighting chance. The alien ultimatum deadline passed without a response from New Austin. Admiral Zektar's ships began bombarding the planet's orbital facilities, while ground forces prepared to invade the surface. General Kane stood in the command center watching enemy ships approach their position. Around her, soldiers and civilians worked together to implement the defense plans she had developed over decades of military service. They wanted to catch us by surprise, General Kane said to Jake and his team. They thought they could destroy humanity before we had time to respond. But humans don't panic easily, and we don't give up without a fight. Jake looked at the tactical display showing human colonies throughout the galaxy. Red warning lights indicated worlds under attack, but green lights showed colonies that were fighting back successfully. The aliens had superior technology, but they had underestimated human determination and resourcefulness. The Zephyrians told us that they had done this 47 times before, Jake said. But they've never tried to destroy a species like humanity. Lisa activated her datapad and began transmitting her quantum countermeasures to every human ship in the system. Let's show them why humans don't forgive, and why the galaxy will remember what happens when you betray our trust. The battle for New Austin was about to begin, but it would not be the easy victory that the Shadow Concordat had expected. Across human space, colonies were uniting in defiance of their would-be conquerors. The stars themselves seemed to watch, as humanity prepared to fight for its survival against impossible odds. And in the depths of space, ancient listening posts recorded the first transmissions of what would become known as the Human War. The invasion began at exactly Order 800 Universal Standard Time across 50 human worlds simultaneously. Massive alien fleets emerged from quantum space like metal storms, their weapons immediately targeting orbital defense platforms and communication arrays. The Shadow Concordat had planned their assault perfectly, striking at the heart of human civilization with devastating precision. Admiral Roy Patterson stood on the bridge of the battleship Retribution as emergency reports flooded in from across human space. His weathered face remained calm despite the chaos erupting around him. Patterson had commanded the home fleet for 12 years, but nothing had prepared him for this scale of coordinated attack. Status report, Patterson ordered as his communications officer struggled to maintain contact with the embattled colonies. Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster looked up from her console with grim news. 17 worlds have gone silent completely. 23 more are reporting heavy casualties and requesting immediate assistance. The aliens are using our own quantum jump technology against us. Patterson studied the tactical display showing the scope of the alien offensive. Red markers indicated human colonies under attack, while blue markers showed the locations of available defense forces. The numbers were not encouraging for humanity's chances of survival. On the mining world of Red Rock, the colonists had no military defenses to speak of. The planet's governor, Dan Murphy, was a former asteroid miner who had never commanded anything larger than a work crew. But when alien ships began bombarding the surface installations, Murphy proved that humans could adapt quickly to desperate circumstances. Every piece of mining equipment on this rock can be turned into a weapon, Murphy told his supervisors as explosions shook the ground around them. Those industrial lasers weren't designed for combat, but they'll cut through alien ship hulls just fine. Within hours, the miners had repositioned their heavy machinery to create improvised defensive positions. Massive drilling rigs became mobile artillery platforms, while fusion-powered excavators served as armored vehicles for hit-and-run attacks against alien ground forces. The aliens had expected the mining colony to surrender immediately when faced with superior firepower. Instead, they found themselves fighting a guerrilla war against an enemy that knew every tunnel and canyon on the planet. On the agricultural world of Greenfield, Governor Carol Davis faced a different kind of challenge. Her planet fed 12 other human colonies, and its vast farming communities were spread across 3 continents. The alien invasion force was trying to capture the planet intact to use its food production capabilities. Davis had been a logistics coordinator before becoming governor, and she understood how to organize large-scale operations. She immediately activated emergency protocols that transformed farming equipment into a resistance network. "Every tractor becomes a transport vehicle," Davis announced over the planetary communication system. "Every barn becomes a supply depot. Every farmhouse becomes a communication relay. We're going to make these aliens work for every kilometer of our soil." The farmers of Greenfield had experience dealing with harsh weather and equipment failures. Fighting aliens was just another challenge to overcome through determination and hard work. Crop-dusting aircraft became reconnaissance planes, while livestock transport vehicles carried weapons and ammunition to resistance cells. Back in space, Admiral Patterson was coordinating the human response to the invasion. Dr. Lisa Hammond's quantum countermeasures had been distributed to every human ship, giving them some protection against alien weapons technology. The first major space battle occurred near the fortress world of New Sparta. Commander Frank Mitchell led a squadron of human destroyers against an alien fleet that outnumbered them 3-1. The quantum countermeasures allowed his ships to survive the initial alien barrage, but the odds were still heavily stacked against them. "All ships, implement attack pattern Delta," Mitchell ordered as his squadron charged toward the alien formation. "Remember, we're not just fighting for New Sparta. We're fighting for every human world in the galaxy." The battle raged for 6 hours as human ships used superior tactics and determination to overcome alien technological advantages. Mitchell's destroyers darted between the larger alien vessels like wolves attacking a herd, striking quickly and then retreating before the aliens could respond effectively. When the alien fleet finally retreated, half of Mitchell's ships had been destroyed or severely damaged, but they had proven that human forces could stand against the Shadow Concordat and win. The victory at New Sparta sparked hope throughout human space, but Admiral Patterson knew that individual battles would not be enough to win the war. He needed a way to take the fight directly to the aliens and force them to stop their invasion. Jake Morrison and his team from Kepler Station had been working with military intelligence to analyze the data they had recovered during their escape. The information painted a disturbing picture of the Shadow Concordat's true power. "They're not just an alliance of the 3 species we knew about," Jake explained to Admiral Patterson during a strategy meeting. "The Shadow Concordat controls dozens of alien civilizations across multiple galaxy sectors. The Zephyrians were just their diplomatic representatives. Ben Parker had been studying captured alien technology with teams of human scientists. Their weapons and ships are standardized across all member species. This suggests a highly organized military structure with centralized command and control." Katie Wells had made the most important discovery while examining alien ship components. All of their quantum communication systems connect to a single source. There's a massive command facility somewhere that's coordinating the entire invasion. Admiral Patterson realized the implications immediately. If we can find and destroy their command center, we can disrupt their ability to coordinate attacks across human space. Lisa Hammond had been working on modifications to human quantum sensors that would allow them to track alien communication signals. "I can trace their quantum transmissions back to their source, but it will require getting close to one of their command ships during active operations." The plan that emerged was both brilliant and desperate. A small human fleet would capture an alien command vessel and use its communication systems to locate the Shadow Concordat's central command facility. Then they would launch a massive counterattack designed to cripple the alien war machine. General Patricia Kane volunteered to lead the ground assault team that would capture the alien command ship. Her forces on New Austin had successfully defended the planet against multiple invasion attempts, proving that human soldiers could match alien warriors in direct combat. "This operation goes against everything we've learned about fighting defensive wars," General Kane told the assembled military leaders. "But these aliens made one critical mistake when they attacked us." Admiral Patterson nodded in agreement. "They thought humans would react like the other species they've conquered. They expected us to panic and surrender when faced with overwhelming force." Jake Morrison looked around the room at the faces of humanity's military leaders. These men and women had spent their careers preparing to defend human colonies against pirates and raiders. Now they were planning to take the war to an enemy that had conquered 47 other civilizations. The Shadow Concordat has been successful because they attack isolated species one at a time, Jake said. But humans have something they've never encountered before. Lisa Hammond activated a holographic display showing human colonies throughout the galaxy. Instead of isolated worlds fighting separate battles, the display showed a network of interconnected communities sharing resources and coordinating their defense efforts. We're not just individual planets or systems, Lisa explained. We're a single species that thinks and acts as one when threatened. Every human world is willing to sacrifice for the survival of all human worlds. Steve Cooper had been monitoring communications from across human space. The mining colonies are sending their entire production output to support the war effort. The agricultural worlds are providing food for refugee populations. Even the corporate fleets are donating ships and crews to the military. Rachel Stone nodded as she reviewed the latest intelligence reports. The aliens are discovering that conquering human territory is much harder than destroying it. Every world they capture requires massive resources to hold, and the local populations never stop fighting. Admiral Patterson made the final decision to authorize Operation Reckoning, the largest military offensive in human history. Every available ship would be gathered into a single fleet and launched toward the alien command center. We're going to show the Shadow Concordat why they should have left humanity alone, Patterson announced to his staff. And we're going to make sure the galaxy remembers what happens when someone tries to destroy our people. As preparations began for the counterattack, reports continued to arrive from human colonies that were refusing to surrender, despite overwhelming odds. On every threatened world, humans were proving that they would fight to the last person rather than accept conquest. The aliens had started a war expecting quick victory against a primitive species. Instead, they had awakened something they had never encountered in their centuries of conquest. 1 year after the betrayal at Kepler Station, the largest fleet in human history assembled in the dark space between galaxies. 15,000 ships from every human world had gathered for Operation Reckoning, the final assault against the Shadow Concordat's command center known as the Nexus. Admiral Roy Patterson stood on the bridge of the massive dreadnought Vengeance, watching as the last stragglers joined the formation. Corporate cargo haulers flew alongside military battleships. Mining vessels carried weapons beside luxury passenger liners that had been converted into troop transports. Even criminal syndicate ships had answered the call to defend humanity. Commander Jake Morrison served as Patterson's strategic advisor for the mission. The data his team had recovered from Kepler Station had made this attack possible. After months of careful analysis, they had finally located the alien command facility in the void between the Milky Way and Andromeda galaxies. Final fleet count is 15,412 vessels, reported Communications Officer Rachel Stone, who had been promoted to Patterson's staff. Every human world is represented, sir. Dr. Lisa Hammond worked at the science station, making final adjustments to the quantum countermeasures that would protect the fleet during the assault. Her breakthrough technology had been stolen by the aliens, but she had spent the last year developing ways to turn their own weapons against them. The Nexus is unlike anything we've encountered before, Lisa explained to the assembled fleet commanders during the final briefing. Our long-range sensors indicate it's not just a military base, it's a massive artificial construct that appears to contain the preserved remains of dozens of civilizations. General Patricia Kane commanded the ground assault forces that would board the Nexus if the fleet could breach its defenses. Her troops represented the best of humanity's military forces, volunteers from colonies that had survived alien attacks through sheer determination. Intelligence reports suggest the Nexus serves as both a command center and a trophy collection, Kane told her officers. The Shadow Concordat has been preserving artifacts from every civilization they've destroyed over the past 1,000 years. Ben Parker had spent months analyzing captured alien technology to understand how the Nexus operated. The facility draws power from artificial black holes and uses quantum field manipulation to maintain its position in deep space. If we can overload their power systems, the entire structure will collapse. The journey to the Nexus took 3 weeks through regions of space that had never been explored by any known civilization. The alien construct existed in the cosmic void where even starlight was rare, and the darkness seemed to swallow hope itself. Steve Cooper had plotted their course using navigation data recovered from captured alien ships. We're traveling through what the aliens call the Silent Reaches. According to their records, this region contains the burial grounds of 47 extinct civilizations. As they approached their target, the Nexus appeared on their screens like a metallic cancer against the cosmic darkness. The alien construct was enormous, easily the size of a small moon, with twisted spires and geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. Katie Wells had modified the fleet's sensor arrays to penetrate the Nexus's defensive systems. I'm detecting massive energy readings from the core. There are also signs of biological activity throughout the structure. Some of those preserved civilizations might still be alive in there. The alien defenders appeared as soon as the human fleet entered attack range. Thousands of Shadow Concordate vessels emerged from hidden bays within the Nexus, their weapons charging with deadly intent. The final battle for humanity's survival was about to begin. Admiral Patterson gave the order to attack as human ships spread into combat formation. The first exchange of fire lit up the darkness like a miniature star as energy weapons and quantum torpedoes filled the space between the opposing fleets. The battle raged for hours as human determination clashed against alien technology. Ships from both sides exploded in brilliant flashes while others limped away, trailing atmosphere and debris. The human fleet took heavy casualties, but they continued to press forward toward their target. Commander Morrison led a squadron of fast attack ships through the alien defenses, using the quantum countermeasures to avoid the worst of the enemy fire. His mission was to punch a hole in the Nexus's shields so that General Kane's assault teams could board the facility. All ships, concentrate fire on the northern shield generator, Morrison ordered as his squadron dove toward the alien construct. We only get one chance at this. The human attack ships launched everything they had at the designated target. Quantum torpedoes and plasma cannons hammered the shield generator until it finally overloaded in a cascade of electrical discharge. A section of the Nexus's defenses flickered and died. General Kane's assault transports raced through the gap before the aliens could repair their shields. Human soldiers stormed into the alien facility, fighting corridor by corridor against defenders who had never expected their fortress to be breached. Inside the Nexus, the assault teams discovered horrors beyond imagination. Vast chambers contained the preserved bodies of entire alien civilizations, kept in stasis as trophies of the Shadow Concordate's conquests. Some species had been extinct for centuries, while others had been captured only recently. My God, General Kane whispered as she led her troops through a hall filled with crystallized beings. They've been collecting civilizations like specimens. The human soldiers pressed deeper into the facility, searching for the Central Command, corps that controlled the Shadow Concordate's military operations. They faced fierce resistance from alien guards, but human tactics and determination proved superior to alien technology. Dr. Hammond and her team reached the power core while the battle raged around them. The chamber containing the artificial black holes was a nightmare of twisted space-time and impossible geometry. The very air seemed to burn with quantum energy. I can overload the containment fields, Lisa shouted over the noise of combat. But the explosion will destroy everything within 100 light-years. We won't be able to escape. Jake Morrison joined her at the control console, his face grim but determined. Then that's what we do. Humanity will remember our sacrifice, and the galaxy will know that humans don't forgive those who try to destroy our people. The other survivors from Kepler Station gathered around the power core controls. Katie Wells began the overload sequence while Ben Parker calculated the optimal timing for maximum damage. Steve Cooper sent a final message to the human fleet, ordering them to retreat to minimum safe distance. For every human who died because of their betrayal, Rachel Stone said as she helped initiate the cascade reaction. The power core began to destabilize as quantum fields collapsed in on themselves. The artificial black holes that powered the Nexus started to merge, creating a gravitational anomaly that would tear apart the fabric of space-time itself. Admiral Patterson received the evacuation signal and ordered the human fleet to retreat at maximum speed. They had accomplished their mission, but the cost had been higher than anyone had wanted to pay. The Nexus exploded in a burst of light that could be seen from Earth itself. The artificial construct and everything it contained were consumed by the quantum cascade, creating a new nebula that would shine in the cosmic darkness for millions of years to come. The Shadow Concordate's command structure collapsed with the destruction of the Nexus. Their scattered fleets found themselves cut off from central command and began fighting among themselves for control. Many of their tributary species rose in rebellion, inspired by humanity's example of successful resistance. 5 years later, Admiral Morrison stood on the observation deck of humanity's newest flagship, looking out at stars that had once threatened, to witness his species' extinction. The war had ended with the Shadow Concordate broken and scattered, their empire reduced to warring factions hiding in distant corners of the galaxy. Human colonies had not only survived the invasion, but had expanded beyond their original borders. New settlements carried the names of those who had died at Kepler Station, ensuring that their sacrifice would never be forgotten. The Zephyrian Alliance faced trial for their role in the betrayal, with some species seeking to make amends while others fled to unknown regions of space. The galaxy had learned a crucial lesson about the consequences of threatening humanity. Children throughout human space learned the story of the betrayal and humanity's response in their history classes. They were taught that humans neither forgive nor forget when their families are threatened, and that the stars themselves would remember what happened to those who tried to destroy Earth's children. The nebula created by the Nexus's destruction became known as Defiance's Light, visible to every human world as a reminder of their species' greatest trial and triumph. Exploration ships pushing into unknown regions carried the message that humanity had emerged from its test not as naive seekers of friendship, but as a civilization that the galaxy would never again dare to underestimate. In the depths of space, ancient monitoring stations recorded the final chapter of what became known as the Human War. The recordings would serve as a warning to any future civilization that might consider threatening the children of Earth.